All right, so you sent a couple messages to me over YouTube, and you had
Yeah,
issues with the logic I employ and the way I debated psi, so you're
yeah.
welcome to challenge me right here.
All right. Well, first, I just like because you said you want to talk about the problem of evil. So at first, I wanted to like discuss about that real quick. Like, I want to know like what exactly is your idea? What's your issue with the problem of evil?
My issue with the problem of evil is essentially that the way Christians typically describe God and the problem of evil kind of shows that there are logical inconsistencies with what God is meant to be. And when I say that, I mean that,
Yeah.
well, one sec, how do you describe God?
How do I describe God? Well,
What are his attributes?
I describe God. Have you read the Westminster Confession?
I have not read the Westminster Confession.
Well, here, like I have it right here actually, and
And what is, could you tell me a little bit about it before you start reading it?
the Westminster Confession is pretty much it was a group of pastors like hold on, let me get some water.
Yeah, you have to have water before you start these things.
Right? No, it's a group of pastors from like I don't remember what years, like way back in the day pretty much, that got together and they just
Like,
like looked at the Bible and they were like, what?
go
And they
ahead, I'm
just
sorry.
like they just looked at different theological things like concepts and they were like, okay, what does the Bible say about this? And they just took all the scriptures that they could find about different topics and they just put them all together. And hold on.
So was this like the 1800s, or are we talking about like biblical times?
It was like the Protestant Reformation, like
Okay.
shortly after the Protestant Reformation. If I can find it.
And this discusses a problem of evil?
Oh no, this discusses who God is. Oh, right here. Like it says, there is but one only living and true God who is infinite in being and perfection, a most pure spirit, invisible, without body, parts, or passions, immutable, immense, eternal, incomprehensible, almighty, most wise, most holy, most free, most absolute, working all things according to the counsel of his own immutable and most righteous will, for his own glory, most loving, gracious, merciful, long-suffering, abundant in goodness and truth, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, the rewarder of them that diligently seek him, and withal most just and terrible in his judgments, hating all sin, and who will by no means clear the guilty.
Okay. So when people typically describe God as all power, all the omnis,
Yeah,
omnipowerful, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, do you accept
yeah,
those definitions?
yeah.
Because
I
you
accept
gave me
those
a
stuff.
whole list of things that I really can't address.
Okay, yeah. Well, I accept that too.
All right. So the problem of evil. Do you understand what atheists see as the problem of evil?
Well, from what my understanding is, atheists when they say like, okay, if God is all good, then the fact that there's evil, like they talk about the fact that there's evil, that means God isn't all powerful, otherwise he'd be able to stop it. And if he's all powerful and he can stop it, then he can't be all good. Is that what you're taught the problem of evil is?
Well, essentially, the idea is that God is all knowing, all powerful. And so, Christians, the basic idea of Christianity essentially is that humans have original sin, which came from Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Jesus Christ is someone who came in the future to relieve us of that sin or give us a pathway so that we can make our way to heaven.
Disagree with that last part.
I might have misworded it. Jesus
Well,
Christ is a
yeah.
way. Go ahead. You can define why.
Well, I would just because I come from the I don't know if you're familiar with the Calvinist tradition.
Yeah. Like Matt
Yeah.
Slick?
What?
Matt Slick?
I don't know who Matt Slick is.
Oh,
Yes, Matt's a
he's a
Calvinist.
very popular Calvinist.
Oh well, I'm not familiar with him. I'm more like Mike Horton. I don't know if you
And
know who he is.
I do. And I'm getting off the topic. Let me
Yeah.
finish my idea.
All right.
So, all right. So Did God want us to sin?
Did God want us? No.
Okay.
In
So,
his moral will, no. In his sovereign will, yes.
all right. So when he created Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, why did they sin?
They sin because of their own free will.
God knew they would sin, though. Okay. Could
Yeah.
God create creatures that could not sin?
Could God create creatures that could not
I'm
sin?
sorry. Misworded that. Could God create creatures that would not sin?
Would not sin?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when God created Adam and Eve, there was nothing in Adam that predisposed him to sin. Like everything in him predisposed him to do God's will. So there was nothing in him that predisposed him to sin.
My point is, when God was creating humans, what was his intention? For them to
His
sin or to not?
intention,
Did he intend humans to sin, or did he intend them not to sin?
no, I think I said in his moral will, no, he did not intend for Adam to sin, but in his sovereign will, he did. So
What
yeah,
is that?
yes and no. What?
Yes and no. You can't have yes and no.
Yeah.
It's either he did.
No, like
It's either he
because
did
Israel.
intend them to sin or he did not intend them to sin. You can't have both ways.
No, because when I said yes and no, I'm differentiating between God's sovereign will and his moral will.
I'm
Like in
I,
his moral will, no, God did not intend. In his moral will, no, God did not intend for him to sin because it goes against God's own nature for us to sin. But in his sovereign will, God did because he had a bigger picture in mind for his creation and for salvation and the drama of redemption.
I feel like we're complicating this. Did he want them to sin or not?
I just answered that question.
No. You said yes and no.
Yeah, I mean it
It
depends
doesn't.
on what you're
It,
talking about.
it's a dichotomy. Either he did want them to sin or he did not want them to sin. You can't break it down any further. It's a dichotomy. And I
No,
know
I
you thought
understand
that
that.
I took logic one, which he said I didn't.
Okay.
So if you understand what a dichotomy is, it's
Yes,
either
I
he
understand.
wants them to sin or he does not want them to sin.
Oh,
There's
I
no.
understand. No, I understand what a dichotomy is. I'm saying,
So
like
yes or no.
theologically, according to Christian theism, which I'm defending Christian theism, like in his sovereign will, yes, he did want them to sin. In his moral will, no, he did not. So when you're asking me that question, you have to differentiate between what you're talking about, his moral will or his sovereign will.
Okay. You have a garden, right?
Yeah, no, I don't have a garden. I
You
live in an apartment.
where? Okay. Yeah. So Adam and, Adam and Eve are in this garden, right? Was
Okay.
it possible for them to just stay in the garden, never sin?
Was it possible for them to stay in the garden? Well,
And never
yeah,
sin.
yeah, there was nothing in Adam that predisposed him to sin.
So it was possible for them to stay in this garden without ever sinning.
Not according to God's sovereign will. No, it wasn't.
So God created a situation where he wanted creatures who were with free will to do something that he created them in a way they could not do.
He created that. He created Adam in a way, like he created Adam. Adam was essentially perfect. Like there was nothing
I
in him that caused him to sin.
You don't understand the question. I'm not trying to insult you. Okay, here's a way I normally differentiate this with Christians. Okay, we have Adam and Eve.
Okay.
Let's pretend like we have Steve and Jan. Steve and Jan have
All
free
right.
will, just like Adam and Eve. But guess what? They were put in a garden, and they never ended up sinning. Why didn't God create Steve and Jan?
Why didn't God create Steve and Jan? Because he created Adam. I'm not sure I'm following what you're talking about.
Well, you're saying his
Like,
goal is that he wanted humans to be in a garden. Okay, his goal is to create a world without sin.
uh,
Steve and Jan
not
would never
exactly.
sin. So he wanted them to sin.
I just said in his sovereign will, he predestined for them to sin. But in his
Okay,
moral will, no, he did not want them to sin.
in your opinion, what is omnipowerful mean?
Omnipowerful means all powerful.
All powerful.
Yeah.
So why? See, the thing is, when Christians start arguing for God in the problem of evil, they start taking powers away from God to make the argument. So if you keep your argument
Well,
as God has all power, then your
yeah.
argument makes no sense.
Well,
And this is
if
why
you're
you're
talking, yeah.
differentiating between two types of sin. It's a simple question, but you can't answer it. And you
Well,
know
if you're
why you can't
talking,
answer
okay,
it?
if you're talking about like if you say all powerful as in he could do whatever he wants at all, like he could do whatever, then I would disagree with that definition. That's not the biblical definition of all powerful. Because
And
there are things that God cannot do.
and I would agree with you. And I used to be a Christian, even though you probably don't believe it. I claim to be a Christian, and I got over this. My idea was he has all possible powers. In that, if someone says, "Can you lift a rock that you can't lift?" or some kind of nonsense like that, of course not. But the idea is, was it logically possible? Was it physically possible for him to create creatures without sin?
He did. He created creatures without sin.
I'm sorry, creatures who would not sin.
Yeah, he did, essentially. He created Adam was not predisposed to do any sin.
And you might have not heard what I said.
Adam was perfect in every single way.
And you might have misheard me. I said creatures who would not sin. Would not.
Okay.
Adam and Eve obviously don't fit
Okay,
that definition.
in that sense, then no. Maybe I did mishear you. Okay, in that sense, no, it was not possible. Because
How
in
do you know
God's
that?
sovereign will, he predestined them to sin.
How do you know that?
Because that's exactly what the Bible says.
Where does the Bible say God could not create Adam and Eve in a way where he knew they would not sin?
Well, it talks about in Romans that through man, through one man, sin came into the world. It also talks about how God predestines all things to come to pass. So God predestined Adam to sin. Yet Adam did it on his own accord at the same time.
Okay, so you're saying Romans is claiming that God cannot create creatures who he knows will not sin. Because God knows the future either way. If God knows the future and he knows Adam and Eve will sin, it's no different than if God knows the future and he knows Adam and Eve will not sin. They're equivalent.
Okay,
But he created Adam and Eve instead of Steve and Jill or whoever I used.
Yeah. Well, but you're mistaken one thing. Like, you're making it seem like I'm saying that God just looked down the corridors of time and saw what each person individually would do. No.
He had to.
Like I said, God predestined them to sin.
Yes. So he didn't want them not to sin.
It wasn't that God looked down the corridors of time and was like, oh, I see this person doing this and this person. No, he actually said, no, this person will do this because I will make him do this.
The thing is, by your definition of God, it is literally like God is looking down the corridors of time. God knows the corridors of time. There's no way God cannot look down the corridors of time.
No, okay. Again, you're assuming that your image of what I'm talking about. You're making it seem like God is like if this was time, like if God, you're just making it seem like God's right here and like the timeline is like this, and God's just looking straight down the timeline. I'm saying God is above the timeline and he sees the wide spectrum of the past to the future. He doesn't he's not like looking down the timeline. He sees the whole timeline as it is.
He's above the timeline, but he's not at the whole timeline?
What?
You're saying God is above a timeline, but he's not looking at the whole timeline.
I'm saying that he's not looking down the timeline as if he's like looking down a hallway and he can only see certain things.
He sees
That's
the whole
what I'm
thing.
saying. Yeah, he sees the whole thing all at once at the same time.
From the beginning.
No, there's no beginning to him. It's all pretty much the present going on.
The beginning from our perspective.
From our perspective, but we're talking about from God's perspective right now.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, let's get back to the basics. Does God want to create a world with or without sin?
Well, according to his sovereign will, the way he did it right now is like he created the world with sin. Like he predestined Adam to sin.
So he wanted a world with sin.
Initially he predestined Adam to sin.
There's no initially. Like you said,
Yeah,
God is
because
outside time.
the ultimate goal, the ultimate end game per se, is the consummation of the heavens and the earth.
You are thinking of this from a human perspective. I am thinking of this from a God perspective. And from a God perspective of someone who has all power and all knowledge, there's no way you cannot have what you want.
Okay, again, you're assuming that all powerful means that he could do whatever he wants to do and make anything happen anytime he wants it to happen.
Well, what
And
does all
I'm not.
powerful mean to you? Because that is exactly what all powerful means. You can do whatever you want. You have all power.
God is not free to do, like, God cannot do so. Number one, God cannot lie. God
Where
cannot
do you
override free will.
you are where are you getting this knowledge?
What?
You are filling in
The
gaps
Bible
for where.
says no. The Bible says that God cannot lie.
So what?
So there are things God cannot do.
Just because we can get onto the Bible in a second, but I don't really care what the Bible says, and I'm just
Of
trying
course you
to
don't.
make a logically consistent argument. And the thing is, you have trouble answering my questions directly because you can see where this is going.
I
and
actually
can see the
answered your
exact.
question directly.
You did not. Okay. Want me to
I
try it
answered
one
your
more
question.
time?
I answered your question according to Christian theism.
No, I don't care about Christian theism. I care about.
Well, that's what I'm defending.
Wait
That's
a
my
second.
position.
I understand. Can God have what he wants or not?
Can God have what he wants?
Or not?
Well, like, it depends on what you mean by that.
Can God have anything that is logically possible?
Again, like, what exactly do you mean by that?
Anything that is not logically possible.
Well,
You are
yeah,
claiming your
boy.
God is all-powerful, except for things that are obvious logical contradictions. So anything that is not a logical contradiction, obviously, by the definition of your God, he would have those
Yeah.
powers, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree with that.
Does he want a world without sin?
Does he want a world without sin? In
Yes.
his sovereign will, in his sovereign will.
You're changing everything.
No,
It's
I'm
a yes
not.
or no question.
You want me
It
to
is.
answer?
You can't answer the question because it's where this is gonna lead.
No, you want me to give you a simple yes or no question to a theological
It's a very
answer.
simple question.
Yeah,
No,
you want.
it'd be a theological question if God was not as powerful as you're claiming your God is.
No,
But
you're asking.
you're giving
You
your.
want me to get to a theological question? I cannot give you a simple yes. There's a simple yes or no answer. Like, there's whole entire volumes of books on the sovereignty of God. Like, I cannot give you a simple yes no answer, or in like a 2-second soundbite.
The problem is that you have defined a God that is too powerful to exist.
No, I haven't. I have not defined that God at all.
You could have a super powerful God and all your arguments would make sense. But the thing is, you can't answer a simple dichotomy because if your God was as powerful as you claim he is, it would not make sense.
I have answered your question.
No, you haven't.
You're
It's a
just
yes or no question.
You want me to give you a simple and a yes or no answer that cannot happen.
Well, logical 101, I'm presenting a dichotomy. Either God can have what he wants or he cannot. There are no other options. Is there a third option?
I answered your question. You said.
Is there a third option?
Yes, there is. What you're presenting is a false dilemma.
No. It's a true dichotomy.
No, it's a false dichotomy. Because
either God can have what he wants or he cannot. There is no third option. It's either he can have what he wants or he cannot.
And see, that's a false dichotomy.
Okay, what is the other option?
Like I said, you have to differentiate between his moral will and his sovereign will. And his sovereign will.
I want an example of the third option. You're
trying to explain to you. Did you cut me off?
I'm sorry.
In his sovereign will, God desired a bride for his son. So he set apart a group of people, like a remnant of people that form the bride for his son that will be united to him in the consummation of the heavens and the earth. That's the big picture. That's his sovereign will. In his moral will, in order for him to accomplish his sovereign will, he had to predestine certain things like Adam and Eve sinning and stuff like that, and we can get into that later. But in his moral will, no, it's completely sin. It goes against his nature. So in his moral will, he would not desire for that to happen.
Okay, so one thing you said, he had to predestine Adam and Eve to sin.
In his sovereign will, yes.
So he wanted them to sin. It's an answer to my dichotomy. There were two options, and now you've answered it. He wanted people to sin.
In his sovereign will, yes, he did. In his moral will, no, he did not.
No, see, a simple thing is the answer to the first question, does God want people to sin or not, is yes. He wants them to sin. That's the only logical possibility given the powers of God.
That's a false dichotomy.
It's not a false. That's not a false dichotomy. It's a true dichotomy. Do you know what a false dichotomy is? You told me I didn't know Logic 101. What is it? I know
what you're setting up. What you're saying, you're like a false dichotomy is where you say that like, for instance, are you familiar with
Euthyphro dilemma?
The Euthyphro dilemma.
Yeah.
That's a false dilemma right there.
I could get into that, but I think we're going down a rabbit trail. It's not. But okay, let me give you.
We can.
Wait. We'll come right back to it.
That's a false dilemma?
I understand. I want to ask you one question real quick, and then we'll go to Euthyphro.
All right.
True or false? Is that a dichotomy?
Is what a dichotomy?
True or false?
True or false?
Yeah.
It depends on the context.
It's yes or no. These are what dichotomies are.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like with true or false, like
okay, logically I'll set it up. A or not A. That's a dichotomy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Is that a true dichotomy? Do we have to complicate it any further?
No, I could say that's a true dichotomy.
A or not A. Okay,
yeah.
True or false? Is that a dichotomy?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
No, it's not a dichotomy.
How's that not a dichotomy?
True, false, or neither.
Okay, well, yeah, so you have a third option.
Yes, A, not A, or neither. There is no neither. It's either A or it's not. Okay,
all right,
so God can either have what he wants or he cannot. There's no neither.
Actually, there is.
There's not a neither. I've defined it in a way there cannot be a neither.
I just showed you, or there could be both.
No, something cannot. That's the law of non-contradiction. You can't have something be true that is false.
I know that, but I'm saying.
Okay, so it can't be both.
Again, you're assuming you're assuming that God has one will. If God has one will, then yeah, there cannot be a neither. But according to Christian theism, God has two wills.
Two wills.
What? Yeah,
one
two
person
wills.
has two wills.
Well, we can get like God is not one person. He's one God, but he's three persons.
He's not one person. He's one. Oh, God. The Trinity?
Yes. That's Christian theism.
I'm not okay. I'm gonna move on from this dichotomy thing because I feel like we're not gonna agree. But
let me ask you a question real quick. What's your standard for morality?
My own.
What's your ultimate standard for morality?
My own.
Your own. So morality.
Same thing for everyone else. Yes.
So morality subjective to each person.
Correct.
So if someone went out there and shot someone right now, would you care? Like if someone shot your mother right now, would you care?
Yeah, it's subjective to me. I would care because of my morality. Obviously, they wouldn't care. That's why my mother got shot.
But they would care they would care if you shot their mother.
They might. But they don't care if they shoot mine.
But what's wrong?
I shoot their mother and my mother. They don't have the same morality.
To an atheistic worldview, what's wrong with killing someone? To an atheistic worldview, what's wrong? It's just two atoms pretty much colliding with each other in an atheistic worldview. There is no atheist
worldview.
I would disagree with that. Everybody has a worldview.
Yes, but atheism doesn't.
Everybody has. So everybody has a worldview except atheists. Atheists are somehow excluded
No,
from this.
atheists individually have worldviews. Atheism as a whole is not a worldview.
I would disagree with that.
Okay, what is atheism?
Like atheism, what? The atheism is the belief that there is no
No,
God.
it's the lack of belief in a
So are
God.
you an
It's the
atheist?
lack of belief in a God.
Hold on. So you're like this is a common
And
thing that the
actually,
new
I'm sorry. You
atheists
might have
try and do.
you might have been right. I do believe there's no God. I corrected you unfairly.
So you do. So you are an atheist then.
I, by my definition, if you want to have a definition that I disagree with, I'm not an atheist by whatever definition you choose. The definition I use, the definition almost all atheists use is the same.
Well,
If you, as one person, want to decide
actually,
that you
the
have a
new
different definition, you can go ahead and do that.
the new atheists are the ones who are trying to redefine the word atheism to mean a lack of a belief in a god or gods. The original definition of atheism, though, is the belief that there is no God. Like, so are you an atheist based on that definition, on the original definition?
If I don't have a belief in a God, then I would fit both of those definitions. I believe there's no God. I don't have a belief in a God. Now,
Okay,
I'm not
so
going to talk. I'm not going to talk for other atheists and tell them how they define this word. Like we all know, words have multiple definitions. You can go ahead and choose a definition that you feel is more comfortable for you, and that's fine. And you don't have to accept
yeah.
another definition, and I don't either.
Okay, so if you're making the claim that there is no God at all, and you're saying that, and therefore you're saying
You
that
you
that,
just
that there
changed the
is
words.
no that there is no ultimate standard for morality, then what makes you think that there's any such thing as evil? You deny that there's any standard for good. You
Wait,
denied that.
you're adding things. I didn't deny there's no standard for good.
Yeah, I mean you're saying morality is you're denying that there's a God, that you're denying that God exists.
Yeah,
And
and when I say I deny there's a God, denial is the opposite of
but
acceptance.
hold on, you didn't let me finish.
So it doesn't mean what people mean in the colloquial sense.
Can I finish?
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right. So I was saying, like, you're denying that God exists because you're an atheist, and you're also saying that morality is subjective. You're denying that there's any ultimate objective standard for morality. So how can you even determine what's evil then? I mean, it's all subjective. It's everybody's opinions.
Yes, that's why we have criminals.
So if it's everybody's opinion, then why should we lock up criminals? Their morality is not any better. Their morality is just as valid as our morality.
All right, do we both agree that we should not murder?
Yeah, but the
All right,
difference
would
is
you like us to both pass a law to defend that?
My worldview can justify why murder is wrong, while your worldview cannot.
You're asking a new question. Your question was, why should we go ahead and lock up criminals? We both agree that murder is wrong, right?
Yeah,
We're both willing to lock criminals up for that offense, right?
yeah.
All right, well, that's why we do it.
Okay, so
Okay,
what you're saying is majority determines what's right and wrong.
obviously, if we don't have no
Okay,
majority, you can pass no laws.
so
No, it's
so
not what
back
determines what's right or wrong for an individual. It's what determines what a
okay.
society
So by that
judges
so
is
by
right or wrong.
so by that logic, back in the day when the white people owned slaves, that was morally right because the majority says slavery was morally right.
I don't know if you heard what I just said. I said it doesn't determine what a person thinks is right or wrong. It determines how a society judges right or wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I
So
mean,
back in the
Saudi
day,
Arabia, they're
society.
Muslims. They don't let people drive. Their society determined that, and that's their moral law. I disagree with that as a person. Their society agrees with that.
Okay, no, but what I'm saying is back in the day, the majority of our society said that slavery was right. So did that make slavery right?
Well, I say it's wrong.
But you're the minority. Back in the day, the majority said slavery was right.
I have no right to be. I can't control the world.
You
Everyone in the
can't.
world could love to rape babies, and I could be the only one who disagrees. I
Okay,
have no
but
control over that.
you just said majority determines right and wrong for the society. So if the
That's not
society,
what I
if our,
said.
If our society said, if the majority of our society said that it was morally right to rape babies, then by your own logic, it's morally right
That's
for
not what I
society
said.
as a whole.
You're
For
changing
society,
my words.
it might be wrong to you as an individual according to your own logic, but according to society as a whole, it's right for everyone.
You're changing my words.
That's
I said,
exactly what you said.
no, it's not. What did I said? The majority determines what is deemed right and wrong, meaning the majority decides laws
Yeah.
and how to enforce them. It
Okay.
doesn't mean the laws are just. It doesn't mean the laws are right, but
Oh,
those
oh,
are the laws.
so you agree that societies do come up with laws that are not morally correct, that are not morally just then.
By my standard, I
But you're
can't follow.
just
Could I follow a moral standard I didn't agree with?
no, I mean people in other countries do it all the time.
Could I follow a moral standard I didn't agree with? Could I deem something moral that I felt was not moral?
Yeah.
I could I could think
I
something's
mean,
moral that
no,
I felt is not moral.
sorry, I misunderstood your question. No, if
Of course,
like no, you could if you felt a law was not moral, then I mean I would hope you wouldn't follow it.
I
I
would
mean I
never
don't know.
follow it. And this is the reason. I don't care. You want to have this standard that's outside of me. And this is a danger of religion. They create these moral standards that they say are unquestionable. So people don't question them. They think their moral
Yeah.
standards are irrelevant. They only have to go by this religion. If God goes and tells me to rape babies tomorrow, and it's absolutely immoral, or it's absolutely moral to rape babies, and I'm required to do it, guess what? I'm not going to rape babies. If that's the
No,
moral standard to rape babies,
Uh,
I'm not raping
I
them.
would just say, like God would never say that because God would never command something that goes against His nature. Like that was
Okay.
yeah. According to Christian theism, morality is based on God's very nature. Like God tells us not to kill because God's not a murderer. God tells us not to lie because God's not a liar. So it's based on His morality, and that's why I say the Euthyphro dilemma is a false dilemma because um, it says it only presents two options. That's it, and says those are the only two options. Where there's a third option that says God commands, tells us not to do something because morality is based on His nature. That's the third option.
So do you want to go into the Euthyphro dilemma?
Yeah, I guess that's a good
All right.
like
So do you want to explain it or do you want me to explain it?
the Euthyphro dilemma. You could probably explain it better.
All right. So are things moral because God say they are moral, or are things moral and gods follow them because they are moral? Are
Yeah,
gods following a moral rule, or are gods
yeah,
dictating things and that's what is making them moral?
yeah. And I'd say, like I said, that's a false dilemma because the third option is God says something is moral because it's based on His nature. So
Okay.
God says that truthfulness is good because God is truthful.
All right. Based by his nature, that's really vague. What do you mean by his nature?
Like I just said, like God says do not lie because He's not a liar, He tells the truth. God says do not murder because He's not a murderer. He gives life, He doesn't take it. Um, God says do not commit adultery because God's not an adulterer. So that's what I mean by it's based on His
Where does
nature.
God's nature come from?
Where does God's nature come from?
Yeah.
Himself. God is is self-contained.
So do you not see the problem that your refutation presented?
About what?
The Euthyphro dilemma.
Like what's the problem?
All right. State the Euthyphro dilemma for me.
The Euthyphro dilemma says is something good because God says it's good, or is it or do or is it good because God acknowledges it?
Okay. Wait, you just repeated the same
Or I
thing
mean,
twice.
okay, no, is something good because God says it's good, or is something or oh shoot, or is it good because no, it's okay, it's something good because God says it's good,
Is
or
God doing
but
something because it's good, or is God
yeah,
making it
that's what I
good?
meant to say. Sorry.
And then you said the reason why it was wrong is because it comes from God's nature, right?
I said morality is based on God's nature.
All right. And where did that come from?
God Himself. God's
Exactly. So it came from God the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That
saying. It comes from God.
what you added adds nothing to the argument.
I don't see
It's
how. Like,
his
what
nature
does
is
God?
something God states, right?
No, it's not. Nature, nature
It
is not
comes from
something you
God.
state. Nature is okay.
Who
Like a
determines
fish
God's
has
nature?
a fish has the nature of a fish. A fish cannot state himself to be a fish. A fish is just a fish. God is God. Like morality does not. God does not state morality. God is good. It's not. It's not that God says something is good. No, God is good.
So
So in
God
order for
doesn't
God,
decide morality.
like that's like asking me, does God decide God?
Exactly. Does God decide morality or not?
It's like I said, that's like asking me, does God decide God? It's the same thing.
No, it's not. You're okay. Where does morality come from
Where does morality come from?
in your worldview?
God's nature.
God's nature. Who decided that?
Who decided that? Like,
No one or
okay,
God?
first off, I think you're confusing. You're confusing what a nature is. God is God. God does not decide who God is. God's character is what dictates morality.
You're defining God. Okay, what God is what the Euthyphro dilemma kind of is getting at, and you're kind of failing to answer the question. Is
No,
God
answered.
is
I
God the
answered
author of morality, or is God not the author of morality?
what I'm saying is that God is morality. That's what I'm saying.
Did he author it?
Like you're asking me a trick question. Like
It's not a trick question. It's very. That's what the
God did
dilemma.
not. God does
That's
not.
why it's a dilemma. It's
God
not like
does
all
not.
these people have been struggling over this for thousands of years
No,
for no
God
reason. It's
does
a,
not. God does not say this is good because it's out. Like you're thinking morality is something that's outside of God, and that's not what I'm saying. Morality is not outside of God.
does God dictate morality?
That's like asking me, does God dictate God?
It's a yes or
That
no question. He
you,
okay. God either
okay.
dictates
Does
morality or
God
he does
dictate
not.
God? Does God dictate God?
That's a meaningless statement.
What?
That's meaningless.
Well, no, that's exactly what you're
That's not
asking
what
me.
I'm asking. I'm asking, does God decide what is moral, or does God
Like,
not
yeah.
decide what is
Well,
moral?
my point is that's exactly what you're saying to me. When you ask me, does God decide what's moral? You're pretty much asking me, does God decide what is God?
No, I'm
That's
not. I'm
pretty,
asking, does God decide what's
no.
moral?
That's when you ask when you ask someone who's a Christian that question. That's exactly what you're asking them.
All right, so you don't know if God decides what is moral. Where do your morals come from?
I just asked. I just answered you that question. Like,
Do they come from God, or do they come from something else? Because God never decided it.
again, God's nature is morality.
All right,
So
so it's his nature. He doesn't.
like morality comes from God's. We're made in God's
I
image.
understand. Does God decide his nature?
God is.
All
So
right, so he
there's nothing
doesn't
to
decide his
decide.
nature. He doesn't.
No, because God is.
So he doesn't decide his nature.
God is.
Does he decide his nature? You don't like dichotomies, do you?
You're asking me, does God decide God? That's pretty
No,
much you're
I'm
going
not
back to
saying,
that.
does God decide what? Yeah, in a sense. Does he decide what he is? Does he have that power?
God is God.
All right. Does he have the
That's
power
like
to? Can
that's
God
like me
not be God?
asking you, do you decide who you are? No, you just are.
Right, but I don't have all power, and I'm not the creator of the universe and all
That's what
things.
I'm saying. God is God. That's
So God is God. He can't decide that. He can't not be God, right?
no, yeah, he cannot be God.
God cannot be not what he is, right?
Yeah,
And morality is based on what he is.
yeah. Morality is
All
based
right,
on
so
him,
your basis
based
of
on God.
morality isn't from God.
Yeah, everyone's basis of morality is from God.
You
Everyone.
just admitted it's not from God.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. How?
God doesn't dictate morality according to you. It's his nature.
Oh my
He doesn't
God.
decide it. And our morality is based on his nature, something he does not decide. You can play the video back.
Okay, first off, I didn't. Okay, I said you asking me does God dictate morality is as absurd as asking me does God dictate God. That's what I
Exactly.
said. And
Right.
what I'm saying is every person is made in the image of God, and since morality is based on God's nature, like it follows logically that we are moral creatures because our morality comes from His nature,
It
being
seems like
made
you're
in His
saying.
image.
It seems like you're saying God doesn't choose what He is. He just is God. He's
He
just
just
perfect.
yeah,
He doesn't
He
choose
just
it,
is God.
right?
He's perfect. He's all good.
And His morality is perfect.
Yeah.
He doesn't choose it. It's just His morality.
Again, what you're asking me, you're saying God doesn't like you're asking me you're still separating God and morality, and I'm telling you you can't do that.
Yes, I am. If you separate God and morality, it doesn't come from God.
No,
If you're
that's what I'm
saying it
saying.
comes from
That's what I'm
God,
saying.
then that's
God, I
you're
agree.
talking.
If you separate God and morality, then morality doesn't come from God. I agree with that. But I'm telling you, to separate the two is a false dilemma.
So
God
don't.
and morality are one. That's what
All
I'm
right.
saying.
Right. So morality.
I know what he's doing.
You know what I'm doing. Anyway, so I'm going to move on from this because it's another dichotomy. You're not going to admit it. But let's one last time just for fun. Where does
All right.
morality come from?
Where does morality come from? I already answered that question.
From God?
From God's nature, from who God is.
From who God is. And
Yes.
does God decide who He is, or does He not?
Again, that's like asking me, does God decide who God is?
Yes. He can't decide who He is. That's the answer.
God just is.
Exactly.
God is self-contained.
By your definition, you're right. So, therefore, morality would not come from God. It's something outside of
No,
God, which is
again,
what the Euthyphroid lemma is describing.
you're separating morality from God, and you cannot do that.
No, I'm saying it's not something dictated by God. Right?
Because God doesn't. God is God.
Right.
Morality, morality, like okay, the Ten Commandments. He made the Ten Commandments based on His nature.
I
That's what I'm
understand.
saying.
Did He have a choice to have a different nature?
God is God. So
Right. He had no choice.
God
So
cannot be anything
morality,
other than God.
in your sense, is an absolute outside of God.
No, it's not outside of God. You added that.
So
But
different morality.
I do say morality is absolute.
All right. Could there be a different morality?
Could there be a different morality? That would be asking. That's like asking me, can there be a different God?
Right. Can God make a moral world that's different than it is now? With different rules? Like maybe a different
Um,
God decides gays, have at it.
well, first off, according to Christian theism, there's only one God.
I know. And does he have
So to
decisions?
ask me, can a different God do something differently? I would say no, because there is no different God.
Does God have free will?
It depends on what you mean by free will.
Free will, the ability to make choices.
The ability to make any kind of choice you want to at all, like libertarian free will. Is that what you're asking?
No, the ability to make any possible choice, not
Any
my
choice
ability
any
to
choice that
fly
you
to the moon.
desire. Any choice, I know, but any choice at all. Can God do
No,
anything?
I just said any possible choice, like not my ability to fly to the moon
Well, I would
or to
like
live to be a billion years old.
by that definition, I'll say no, because God cannot lie.
All right.
God can't do anything against His nature.
Okay.
Like so, God can't lust.
All right.
All right.
All right. Do you have any other questions? I mean, we can keep going with the moral debate, but like with the first dichotomy, you're not really going to acknowledge it. So we're going to
I
talk in
think I
circles.
have. You're just not acknowledging my answer because it's
You're
not what
not
you want to hear.
understanding dichotomies because dichotomies are either yes or no, and you're answering other. If I present a dichotomy to you and you answer any other way,
And
then you're not understanding what.
I exposed how your dichotomy was a false dichotomy.
Can you give me an example of another false dichotomy that it is not related to your religion?
Not related to my religion.
Right, because I didn't take Logic 101.
Well, I mean, I can't think of anything right now, but
Well, I mean, you can recognize
a
a false dichotomy, apparently, so could you give me an example of one?
Yeah. Well, I gave you an example of the Euthyphro dilemma, and I showed you how that was a false dichotomy.
It's not. It's a true dichotomy.
No, I already showed you how it's not a false dichotomy.
Either God is the author of morality, or he is not. So you make a phrase. If you make a phrase and then you add or not, then you're good.
No. In order to refute a false dichotomy like the Euthyphro, all I have to do is offer a third option. That's all I have to do is offer a third option. I don't have to, that's all I have to do. Offer a third option that's logical, and that's exactly what I did. I posited a third option, showed you how it's logical, and you have yet to refute it.
Dichotomies have no third option.
But that's a false dichotomy. The
It's
Euthyphro
not.
dilemma. I just showed you how it was.
You don't understand. Okay, A equals God can. What was the Euthyphro dilemma? Now you got me all messed up. All right, so A equals God is the author of morality. That's what A equals.
Yeah.
God is the author of morality, or not. A. Either he is the author or he is not. There are no other options.
Okay, and the third option is God
there
is
are no
morality.
Other options.
Yes, that is the third option. God is morality.
A equals that. Not A cannot equal A.
No, what you're doing is, if you want to follow that, what you're doing is you're separating God and morality, and I'm telling you, you cannot do that.
No,
if you're talking to a Buddhist or a Muslim, well, no, not a Muslim. If you're talking to a Buddhist or a Taoist or any other religion, what?
My dad was
a Muslim would say the same thing. But if you're talking to a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, like they'll tell you exactly what I'm telling you, that morality is pretty much God. God is morality. You cannot separate the two.
That's not what the question is asking. It's asking, does he decide morality or does he not?
But that's I already exposed that to be absurd, because that's like asking.
It's not absurd.
That's like asking someone, does God decide God?
There is morality. Did God do it or didn't he?
That's like asking, did God do himself? Did God do God? Or didn't he?
Oh, I don't know about that.
As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, hell no.
I'm gonna cut that, and I'm gonna play it out of context.
Oh, wow.
All right, we're never going to agree on this. We're moving around, so we can move to another issue if you want, or we can continue to argue about this dichotomy that you're not recognizing.
Or the dichotomy that I have recognized that you're not acknowledging.
Is it a dichotomy?
It's a false dichotomy.
It's not. Give me an example of a false dichotomy. How can I prove to you that you are facing a dichotomy? It's like it's so obvious to me.
Give you an example of a false dichotomy. Okay. Okay, let me see.
Here, I can give you an example.
No, only planes and helicopters fly.
Right. That's not a dichotomy.
That's a false dichotomy.
It's not a dichotomy.
No, I'm saying only birds.
It's a statement. It's a statement. It's not a dichotomy. Here, you want me to give you a false dichotomy? True or false?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
A dichotomy has to be one entity, or it's negation.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes.
All right.
And a false dichotomy is a dichotomy that only sets up two options when there's a third or more options available.
If there's only something and it's negation, is there a third option?
It depends on what we're talking about.
No, it doesn't.
In most cases,
it doesn't matter what A equals. If there's only one thing in its negation, or is
Yeah.
there a third option?
But we're talking about a false dichotomy is where you
It's where
have only two options. That's it. When there are more options available, that's what a false
That's right.
dichotomy is. In order
A
to
false
refute
dichotomy-
a false dichotomy, all I have to do is point out a third option.
a false dichotomy is when you say it's either A or B.
Yeah, that's what I just said. In order to refute that, I'll just
Right.
point out that there's C.
Here, let me give you an example. All right, so I guess we're sticking on this for a minute. God is the author of morality. What's the negation of that?
What's the negation of that? Is God is not the author of morality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a
And
dichotomy.
The third option.
There is no third option.
Or you're changing the Euthyphro dilemma. The Euthyphro dilemma is either God is the author of morality, or God acknowledges morality. The third option is morality, like God is morality. That's the Euthyphro dilemma, and that's why I said it's a false dilemma.
If God is the
Because
morality, he's not the
Euthyphro
author.
dilemma does not acknowledge the third option. The Euthyphro
God
dilemma.
is-
What?
If God is morality, he could be the author of that, and he could not. He could decide what he is, or he cannot.
God could just be. Like
Right.
to ask me, does God decide morality? It's like asking me, does God decide God?
Maybe.
No,
All right.
God just is.
All right, so he doesn't decide his morality. He just is. That's the answer.
God
I mean,
just-
I could give you the answer
God
to
does
this
not-
thing we're
God
struggling over. The answer is
God does
God
not-
would not be the author of morality. And to make
No,
your religion as
answer-
consistent as possible, he wouldn't be the author.
No, God. Okay, again, God just is. Like you're trying to separate morality from God. And I'm telling you that in order to, you're saying God is not the author of morality. That's like saying God is not the author of God.
We're saying God. Okay, according to you, morality is an aspect of God, right?
No, God is morality. It's not just an aspect.
God
of
is
God.
more
God
than
is.
just morality, right? He's the creator of the universe, not just the word morality.
No, okay, but again, yeah, of course, like the word morality does not make up God. But I'm saying what morality is God.
It's a part of God. It wouldn't
Like
be all
God
of
does
God.
not. God
I
does
shouldn't
not
be helping you with your argument.
God does not have separate parts to Him.
Oh, okay. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to go down that road? Because I'm pretty
yeah.
sure most theologians will disagree with you.
Actually, most good theologians would say God is
All
one.
God is morality.
God is one person. You cannot separate God into parts.
Well, you can describe different aspects of him. Do you believe in the
But they're
Trinity?
What?
Do you believe in the Trinity?
Yes, I believe in the Trinity.
Oh, but there's different
kinda cutting
aspects
out.
of God. Oh, sorry. How about now?
No. God is one in essence. There's not multiple parts to Him. God is one. The Trinity says that God is one. Like it doesn't say that God is not three parts.
So God is not three parts. He's just God.
He's just
Father,
God. He's
Son,
one. God is
Yeah.
in essence one.
So there's no Father, Son, and Holy Ghost?
I never said that.
All right.
Now
so
you're
he's-
getting into personhood. You're getting into his personages. Yeah, God is three persons, one essence.
It sounds like nonsense. It sounds like you're trying to say 1 equals 3.
No, what I'm saying, no. If you want to talk, okay. If you want to have a good example, okay, infinity times infinity equals infinity.
Infinity is not a number.
Well, I know. I'm just giving you an analogy. That's all.
Infinity is just unbounded.
But
So
you're the one that brought up the numbers. So I was going off of that analogy. Like you said, it sounds like I'm trying to say 1 + 1 + 1 or whatever. Like I'm trying to tell you, infinity times infinity would be a better analogy of that.
I guess it kind of depends on the range, but I don't know if we want to get into math right now. It's up to you. I'm pretty good at math.
Like, you're the one that brought it up. So.
I didn't bring up infinity times infinity
No,
because you don't want to.
you brought up math though.
1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3.
Yes, I know.
All right.
I know that.
I
No,
don't know.
but
You can get into the Trinity if you want. I was going to ask, did you want to get into your pre-sup stuff or not?
no, I
It's
mean,
up to you.
like, yeah, like,
I'm
did you want
up for whatever. I just don't want to. I like how we're kind of hitting a lot of different subjects, so I just want to kind of keep
Yeah.
moving with it. I don't think you're ever going to agree with my position on morality, and I don't think you're going to agree with my position on the problem evil, but I think we both presented our opinions on those pretty well. And I guess whoever's listening can decide on that. And obviously, I know how YouTube works. All the apologists are going to be like, Fsx23 is the biggest idiot ever, and the ideological fallacy, da 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 da. And then all the atheists are going to be like, what an idiot, da 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 da. But
yeah,
I'm not worried about that. I think it's pretty cordial. So anyway, we can get into pre-sup, which is really flawed if you want.
Wait, what? Say that again?
I said we can get into pre-sup if you want. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You just kind of broke out for a second.
Here, one sec. Here, let me open this door real quick. I think it might be messing up my reception.
All right.
Can you ask him if I can ask him something?
Oh, just ask me.
Ask him because he was a little bit.
I know you guys are sneaking women in.
He was still there?
He was also asking how he differentiates between atheism and agnosticism.
Oh, okay.
Atheism and agnosticism?
Well, I just wanted to know real quick, because you're a little bit like iffy on your definition of atheism. So how do you differentiate between atheism and agnosticism?
All right. Well, first, before I answer that, I'm not married to the word atheist. It's not the most important thing to me, and it's not the most defining term that applies to me. The reason I use the word atheist is because of the popular use of people who are trying to promote the ability of people who don't believe in religions to live in societies and have rights just like everyone else. So atheism, I believe, is dealing with a belief, and agnosticism is dealing with knowledge. So atheism is either you believe in a god or you do not.
Okay.
If you believe in a god, you're a theist. If you do not, you're an atheist. Agnostic. Either you claim to know a god exists or you do not. So you could be a Christian Gnostic or agnostic, and an atheist Gnostic or agnostic. I am an atheist agnostic, like 99.99% of atheists claim to be.
So you would claim that you're both, and that's kind of like I don't know. That's what the new atheists claim. Like I don't know if you're familiar with that. Like I keep on saying new atheists. Have you heard that before?
Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, Dave Silverman,
Daniel Dennett, Christopher Hitchens,
all my buddies,
all of them.
Right?
Yeah, all the new atheists, pretty much.
Like I said, words have multiple definitions. We can argue over the word. That's what I mean by the word. If you have an issue with that word,
and I don't feel like
say I'm something else. By the way I define the word, I think it's correct.
All right. I mean, as long as I at least know where you stand when you say that word now.
If you redefine the word atheist, it's not going to change anything about what I am and what I believe and what I think.
I just stick with when I normally talk to an atheist, I stick with the original definition of atheism. That's usually what I do.
Like I said, words have multiple meanings and definitions over time, and there's really never a solid definition for a word. If you really research it long enough, it all gets blurry.
Yeah. So, about pre-sup, what's your understanding of pre-sup?
It's a way to define God into existence.
That's what your understanding of pre-sup apologetics is.
That's the gist of it.
Okay.
It's also a way to annoy and aggravate atheists in a way that they'll just get really pissed off and look like idiots.
Okay. Well, pretty much what because everybody has presuppositions. Everybody. No one's neutral. You have a worldview. You come into this debate with your own presuppositions, your own worldview, just as much as I do. So.
Can I say one thing real quick? If you don't have the ability to reason, do you have presuppositions?
Everyone has to.
Everybody has presuppositions.
Even if you have no ability to reason, you're a vegetable.
Well, yeah,
A vegetable has presuppositions.
because they still have consciousness. They still have consciousness. They're still alive, aren't they?
So someone with no ability to reason or think has presuppositions?
If they had no consciousness at all, they'd be dead.
No, they're alive. They're being.
Okay, they're alive. They have consciousness. That means they can still think. So
I know
yeah.
this is a core to one of your arguments. So I'm just.
Yeah, no, I
All
know.
right, go
I
ahead.
know that's.
I think everyone listening got my point.
No, I got your point too. I'm saying if they're alive and they have consciousness, they can still think.
No, if they don't have the ability to reason, I don't know if they
Okay.
even have
If
consciousness.
they can't reason, that means they can't think, and if they can't think, then that means they're dead.
You can keep people alive if they're brain dead.
They're still conscious though.
Not if they're brain dead. You can pump someone's heart and
But then you get into
pump their lungs full of air.
Okay, now you're getting into how to define death. Like,
Yeah, I'm getting off into the weeds. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I
All
thought
right.
it'd be a quick answer, but whatever. Go
All
ahead.
right. Anyways, well, as a Christian, I presuppose the Bible as my ultimate authority. I presuppose God as my ultimate authority, God's word, as a Christian. So that's why when I come into a debate with an atheist, I defend Christian theism as opposed to generic theism. Like, I don't know if you know Dr. William Lane Craig. Like,
Everyone does.
yeah, I disagree with him because he defends general theism. I don't support that at all. But yeah. So as a Christian, I presuppose God's word, which, by the way, I get this a lot. Like a lot of atheists say, "Oh, you can't quote God, you can't quote the Bible to me because blah blah blah." But at the same time, atheists have their own script that they presuppose as their ultimate authority. The only difference is my script is written down while your script is not. Like everybody has a script that they follow.
You want me to respond to that?
You can.
Atheists as a whole don't have a script.
I would disagree with that. You have a worldview.
Okay. All right, where's our script? What do we all agree with? Other than the fact that we don't believe God exists. That's not a script. That's one point.
you claim that God does not exist.
No, we claim we don't believe God exists.
Okay. So
I cannot believe something and also claim I think it's not real at the same time.
Are you an atheist or are you an agnostic?
I answered that earlier on both.
Yeah. An atheist is someone who claims that God does not exist. An agnostic is someone who says they don't know.
Have you ever heard of an anti-theist?
I've seen that term thrown around.
Do you know what an anti-theist is?
Against theist?
No. It's someone who believes a God.
Against. Theist means someone who believes in God. So anti-theist.
An anti-theist is someone who believes a God does not exist.
An anti-theist is someone who believes that God does not exist.
An atheist does not believe a God exists. An agnostic does not claim to know a God exists. And if you want to go there, I am an anti-theist. I believe a God does not exist. I'm willing to defend that position.
Okay, so you're saying that you believe that there is no God.
I believe there is no God. Correct.
So
I do not know there is no God. I do not believe there is a God.
So then, what's your foundation for knowledge or truth? Your ultimate
foundation?
Truth. Yes.
You're presupposing there's an ultimate foundation for knowledge and truth.
Do you believe that? Do you believe that there are things that are true and that there are things that are false?
There are things that are true and there are things that are false, and there are things that are neither.
Okay, so what's your foundation for true and false? How do you determine what's true and false?
How do I determine true or false, or what is my foundation? I'm not claiming an ultimate foundation.
What's your standard? What's your standard for true and false? How do you determine that?
Evidence and reason.
Evidence and reason.
Psi 10 does the same thing. He just has... Correct.
No, okay. I'm not bringing Psi 10 into this.
I am.
No, okay.
I
So
don't
you
know.
said evidence and reason. So are you a
That's how I
would,
determine
would
true
you
and
say
false.
would you say you're a naturalist then?
Define naturalist.
Someone who believes that nature is all there is.
We might have to want to define nature. I define nature as
Okay, the
existence.
physical realm. Someone that believes that the physical realm, what you see, touch, and feel, is all there is. There's nothing
I,
outside of the physical realm.
I define that as existence.
The
The
nature,
physical realm is
the
existence
physical
to me.
realm. So just
Existence.
what? So that's kind of like a vague term. What do you mean by existence?
Everything that exists. Everything that
So
is. If
everything that
something
is.
does not,
So
yep.
right. So what you just said, only the physical realm is what exists.
I'm saying the physical realm is existence.
The physical realm is existence. So that's it. There's nothing outside of the physical realm.
Anything
According to
outside of existence doesn't exist.
okay.
It's a dichotomy. That's how I define nature.
So
See,
you
that's
define nature by what's the physical realm. What's the physical realm? That's what you say nature is.
yeah. One sec, sorry. Dogs are going crazy.
All right.
Sorry. I think UPS guy.
Oh.
All right. Physical realm is all that exists. Yes.
All right. So, crap. I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's a good definition, huh?
No, you said okay. So the physical realm is all that exists. Then. All right. So by that
No,
logic, okay.
I'm saying they're the same thing.
Okay. If they're this, all right. So it's not a dichotomy then.
I'm
So
saying
you're saying that
you're,
existence is the physical realm.
yes.
Okay.
What are you
So what I'm
defining
saying.
if you're talking about something outside of the physical realm, what is that?
No, okay, no, I agree with what I'm saying is okay. So if you say that only the physical realm exists, then like so for instance, if I'm just fizzy like if you take one soda pop of Coke and one soda pop of Pepsi, you shake them up, the Coke's gonna fizz Coke, the Pepsi's gonna you pull out Pepsi, and the Pepsi's just gonna fizz Pepsi. I'm fizzing theism, you're fizzing atheism. So how do you determine what's true and false?
Oh,
Like we're just fizzing what we're fizzing, because it's all nature.
oh, I've been hoping someone was going to use this argument for a while. So, okay,
What?
so I've been waiting for this fizzing thing. So, because you're essentially saying when you're talking about fizzing, you're talking about my brain, right?
I'm talking
The,
about you yourself, but
yeah,
yeah,
the chemical reactions in my head, and all I am are chemical reactions. And how
yeah,
can this chemical reaction be true and this one be false, right?
yeah. If naturalism is all there is, how do you trust your own naturalism?
Just a bunch of molecules bumping around. That's your argument, right?
That's what I'm asking you. How do you trust How do you trust your own thoughts?
How do I evidence and reason? Do you trust the
Evidence.
Bible?
Like, how do you trust your own reason? That's what I'm asking
Evident.
you.
Well, one second. Do you trust the Bible?
What?
Do you trust the Bible?
Well, I trust the Bible. Yes, I
Right.
do.
What's it made out of?
What's it made out of?
It's
It's
made out of molecules and
according to
chemical
God,
reaction.
according to Christian theism, it's God's word. So it's self-attesting. It's self-attesting from God's
But it's
word.
just
It has
vibrating
authority.
molecules bouncing around. How can that be true or false?
It's not just molecules bouncing around. According
And
to
neither
Christian
is my
theism.
brain.
What?
And neither is my mind. It's a
No.
pattern that matters, not the nature of the
According
material.
to your worldview, all that there is just this physical realm. That according to your worldview, that's it. So
I
if your molecules are just bumping around, then how do you trust your own reasoning?
You're redefining what I said. I said the physical realm is existence. I'm
Yeah, no,
equating
I'm
them.
going off of that. According to your worldview, according to what you
There is
said,
only existence, correct.
there's nothing outside of the physical realm.
There's nothing
So
outside of existence.
like, I'm
Correct.
not making that claim. So I'm asking you if all there is the physical realm and your
It's
brain is just fizzing atheism and my brain's just fizzing theism, how do you trust your own reasoning?
well, one, I'm going to read it. I'm going to say this one more time. I'm stating the physical realm is existence. So,
I
of
know.
course, there's nothing but existence. There's anything outside
Okay.
of existence doesn't exist. Two, my brain just fizzing, what did you say, fizzing atheism or
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the nature of what my brain is made of. It's the pattern of what it is. It's the
Okay. But
detail
what
and
I'm
the
asking,
arrangement of
like, if
neurons. Just like it's not the fact that your Bible is made out of paper or papyrus or whatever ink they use. It's the pattern you put on it and what
no,
that
but
can
what I'm
convey.
asking, according to your worldview, how do you trust your own reasoning? That's what I'm asking.
I've answered that. How do I trust evidence?
Evidence. So you trust, like, but everybody, like, I can look at one piece of evidence, you can look at another piece of evidence. Because I have a different worldview than you do, and you have a different worldview than I do, I'm going to come up with a different conclusion based on that same piece of evidence that we both just looked at. So how do you trust that your reasoning, looking at that evidence, is true?
So if we disagree on something, how do we determine who's true?
No, I'm asking you, how do you trust that your reasoning is true? That's what I'm asking you.
Versus by testing it.
By testing it. But
Yes.
okay, we still have different worldviews. We still have different perceptions. So, like whatever the result is, like our worldview is still gonna determine how we look at the results. So I'm asking you, how do you trust your own senses?
Evidence. Listen, do you know people who drive cars who know nothing about the car?
Okay.
Yeah, they drive it every day. It gets them to where they need to go.
They know how to drive a
They
car though.
they may not,
They
but
know enough about the car to know how to drive it.
they
What I'm
don't know
asking,
enough to they don't know enough to not reason that this extremely flammable fluid that they're packing into a piece of metal isn't going to explode, do they?
well, obviously they do. Like they know if they're driving it, they know enough to know
Yeah,
how to drive it without it exploding. But what I'm
yeah.
asking is, how do
They've
you trust? How do you know that your reasoning is valid? Do you reason that your reasoning is valid?
Do I reason my reasoning is valid?
Yeah, that's the only way. That's the only way you could trust your trust the validity of your own reasoning. Is if
What are you
you.
defining reasoning as?
What am I defining reasoning as?
Yeah, it's a strange
Um,
question.
you're trusting your own perceptions. And I'm
Reasoning.
asking.
Okay, I disagree. Reasoning or perceptions.
Well, I mean, okay, you're trusting your own worldview. You're trusting the way you see things through your worldview.
I'd say that's a perspective. That's not really a reasoning. I think reasoning is a method of evaluating evidence.
Okay, that's exactly what I just said. Like,
So, how do I trust my ability to evaluate evidence is based on testing?
okay, but again, like I said, we could both test the same experiment and come up with the same exact results, but because of our worldview, we come up with a different conclusion. So how do you know that your conclusion is true? How do you trust your own conclusion?
For most conclusions, there's a degree of possibility I am wrong about my conclusion.
There's a degree of possibility that you're wrong about your conclusion. So do you really
Now,
know? Do you really know your conclusion then?
depends on the question.
Depends on the question. Okay, now okay.
I am more certain of the
I see
fact
where this
that
is
the Earth
going.
is round than the Big
Yeah,
Bang happened 14 point whatever billion years ago.
I agree with that.
I have a higher degree of certainty.
You have a high degree of certainty. Okay,
Higher.
I have no issue with the Big Bang.
If
Or
I fly a plane and I'm going to China, I'm going to trust that the Earth is round and I'm going to be on the other side of the planet and the clock's going to change when I get there.
okay, but okay, we're kind of getting into the same discussion that you and Sai got into now. But if you want to get into that discussion, then I guess we can go. Okay, say like
I'm
I
up for
said,
whatever.
what?
I'm up for whatever.
All right, so if I said that the speed limit on Academy, I mean you're familiar with Academy, so if I
Is
said
that
the
Colorado
speed,
Springs?
yeah, if I
I've been
said
there
the
like 4 times.
so if I said the speed limit on Academy was 55, but I could be wrong, do I possibly know that? Do I know that?
You could.
I could know, but I said I could be wrong.
Right.
So and it turns out that the speed limit is 55, like Does that mean I knew that, or does that mean that I just made a lucky guess?
If you have a black bag with 5 blue marbles and 1 red marble, and you reach into the bag and you hold the marble, do you know what color the marble is? Do you know you have a red marble?
If I said, okay, if I had the marble in my hand, I said, okay, I think I have a red marble in my hand. I open my hand and I said, oh, here's a red marble. That doesn't mean I knew it. That just means I just made a lucky guess.
All right. Well, if you reach into a bag, grab a marble.
Well, first I want to know where your stance is.
You show it to your friend, and they say it's red. Do you know it's red?
Wait, say that again?
You reach into, okay, here. You reach into a bag, say marbles. 5 marbles, let's say 1's red, 4 blue. You grab one, you don't look at it, you show it to your mom, assuming you love your mom and you trust her more than anything, and she says it's a red marble. Do you know it's red?
If she tells me, yeah, I'll know
you
it's
know
red.
It?
What?
How do you know it? How do you know it's red?
Based on what she told me, and I trust that she wouldn't lie to me.
So if you look and see a blue marble, or what are you going to say?
I'd probably say that she lied to me.
You're right. But if you see a red marble, what are you going to say?
She told me the truth.
So how are we defining no? You're in the state where you can't verify it.
Okay. At the same time, though, you actually right with that analogy. You just proved presuppositional apologetics. Because, no, let me tell you why. Because all arguments this is gonna sound a little bit like side 10 for a second, but
I'm used to it.
Yeah, I know, but yeah, I don't like, to be honest, I really don't like him that much. So
no one does.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know if you know who Dr. Greg Bonson is. I listen to him more, but okay. In order for us to know anything at all, there has to be someone that has infinite knowledge that can reveal things to us in order for us to know them with certainty. An atheist is in the position where they cannot know anything at all because they say that person that has infinite knowledge does not exist, so they cannot justify the things that they know. I'm not saying that they can't know anything, they just can't justify what they do know. But I do want to know where your stance is on this, because I remember in that discussion that you had with him, you said that you didn't make the claim that you could be wrong about everything you know.
Right. So with your example with your mom where you said she told you the color of the marble, you were wrong, right? You didn't know that.
No, what I'm saying is in order when you use that analogy, the only way I would have known what the color of that marble was my mom telling me what the color of that marble was. In the same way,
God.
According to Christian theism, in order for any of us to know anything, is God reveals things to us because we're made in His image.
But your mom told you that, not God, so you wouldn't know in that instance. While your definition of knowledge, only knowledge revealed from God is in fact knowledge.
No analogy is perfect. So, I was going off of that analogy because it took my mom to tell me what color marble I had in my hand.
Do you have knowledge outside of God's revelation?
Do I have knowledge outside of God? According to Christian theism, no, I do not. I only know.
Okay, so everything you know. So do you know you're a male, like I asked Si?
Do I know that I'm a male? Yeah.
Did God reveal that to you?
God reveals that to all of us.
God revealed that you're a male. He told you.
We're made in His image, so it's
God
innate.
Told you you're a male.
It's innate in all of us because we're made in His image.
You can know for absolute certain you weren't some crazy scientific experiment when you were a baby and they jiggered with your parts and made you a boy. You can prove that absolutely. Because God revealed that to you?
I could go back and I can go back to show you my parents and everything. We can
you're looking for evidence. You're looking for evidence by your own definition is irrelevant. You're claiming God is the source of all knowledge. So looking and asking people and searching and using your head and looking for evidence is useless.
What I'm saying, in order for us to know, the reason we know things is because we're made in God's image. When a Christian says that God reveals things to us, we're not saying that God speaks to us with an audible voice and says, this is true, this is false, you're a male, you're a female. No, that's not what I'm saying. I can see where you can get that from, but that's not what we're saying. We're not saying God speaks to us with an audible voice and says that.
The problem is I don't understand what you're claiming your revelation is. It seems like you're just making something up.
Making something. Oh, let me show you something real quick. All right.
Meaning,
Are you? What?
meaning Sai, whatever. Sai admitted that he acquires knowledge in two ways. One is revelation from God, and one is from his senses and reasoning. And he states they are not the same.
No.
I am stating that I get knowledge from my sense and reasoning, like
and I would
too.
disagree with Sai on that.
You're
Like,
adding an extra thing, though.
no, I'm not. What I'm saying is, according to Christian theory, according to what God's word says, we know things through God's revelation, and God's revelation is special revelation and general revelation. General revelation is through creation, through the things that He's made, through us being made in His image. So therefore, it's innate in us. Like morality is innate in us. The fact that I'm a male is innate in me. Stuff like that. And special revelation is His Word, the Bible, like written revelation. So that's how God reveals things to us.
So you're saying every male at birth knows they're male, every female at birth knows they're a female for sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, you might want to look up some documentaries on YouTube because there are examples where you have broken X chromosomes or Y chromosomes, and a male actually develops female parts.
So you're getting,
right.
so you're getting your information. So you believe everything you see on YouTube.
Is that what I just said?
Well, that was your source. You said there's documentaries on YouTube.
Well, I'm saying there's documentaries on YouTube, so you'd have an easy way to find them. I wasn't claiming that's why they were correct.
Yeah, I know. Like.
Okay. Nice.
Like
you're
that does not change. Like a male is a male. Like that does not change. Like they may think that they're a female on the inside. Like
we're talking about what they think.
Hold on. Let me finish. Or they might even say that they think they are, but that does not change their body structure or their physiology at all. They could claim, "Oh, I'm a female on the inside," but that's not. Like there's no evidence for that at all.
Well, there is if you have a girl with a Y chromosome that's broken.
And I'm not like that does not change. She's still a female.
No, it can't have babies. It's genetically a male. It's just it didn't develop the right way.
No, her physiology is a female.
All right. Well, okay. Let's move on. I can get into worse examples, but I don't know if we want to get that graphic on here. So
yeah,
there are examples where there are examples out there, and if you want to go Google it, you can do it on your own time. But there are examples where things are less clear.
Okay. But yeah, no, but talking about knowledge though, I mean, so you claim that you can know things and you cannot be wrong on them at all.
Yes, there are some things I claim are axiomatic.
Okay, like what?
My existence and my thoughts.
Okay, and how do you know that?
I experience them directly.
You experience them directly, and how do you trust your experiences?
How do I trust my experiences? Trusting is an experience.
Okay. Okay, but how do you? Okay.
See,
so how do you trust?
There's a difference between.
How do you trust your? How do you know that your reasoning of your experience is valid?
Of my existence or any experience?
Your experience, your existence. How do you know it's valid?
It has to be. It has to be.
How do you know that?
I'm thinking. I exist.
So you're talking about I think therefore I am.
See, you are confusing two things.
Is that what you're talking about? I think therefore I am?
Yeah, and you're going to say it's disproven in that example where it's disproven wrong.
I'm going to say that's circular. That's a circular argument. Do you not see that? I think therefore I am.
It's definitional.
No,
okay, presuppositionalism is a very complicated way to justify a circular argument.
All arguments are indeed circular. The difference is with presuppositionalism, like number one, we with presupposition, we have an out. There, like God is infinite. He has all knowledge. He cannot lie. He reveals things to all of us to where we can know things with certainty.
If God doesn't exist, what can He reveal to you?
I never claimed that. You're the one claiming God does not exist.
No, I'm asking a question. If he didn't exist, what could he reveal to you? If
God didn't exist, there would be I wouldn't be here.
No, you can't assume that. If God did not exist and you
According
existed,
to Christian theism, it's impossible for God to not exist.
Yes, but Christian theism is a giant circular argument. Do you want to prove God exists?
Everything is circular. That's not what you're getting. Even your own logic. The only difference is your logic is viciously circular. Let me ask you this: do you believe that there's laws? Let me ask: do you believe that there's laws of logic?
Do you want to finish this point, or do you want to move on to laws of logic?
I'm just asking you a question. Do you believe there's laws of logic?
There are laws of logic.
Okay, and are they universal?
Universal.
Yeah.
What? There are laws of. Why does that matter?
I'm just asking. Are they universal?
Sure. It's an irrelevant.
Okay.
It's a pointless.
Hold on,
Are they
hold on.
blue?
Are they?
No.
I'm going somewhere with this. Like you said they are universal.
Are they words?
Would you say that they're objective? Or are they objective or do they change? Do they change? Or are they objective?
As far as we know, yes, as long as we define them correctly.
So you say that they are objective. They don't change.
As long as we've defined them correctly. I see logic like math. If there was some guy who made a math problem in an equation and no one caught it.
No, that's not what I'm asking. Like you're saying that there is objective, universal laws of logic.
Yes, humans have created laws of logic.
Okay, so if there is objective, universal laws, are they? Would you like? If there, okay, so you're saying that there is universal, objective laws of logic. Okay, so how do you like? What's your foundation for the laws of logic?
Humans have created laws of logic.
Humans have, so majority determines what's the laws of logic.
No, the nature of the laws of logic determine they're true.
Are they material? Are they material?
In a sense.
In a sense, what do you mean by that? How can a law be material?
What they describe is not material, meaning they are true statements describing nature the way it is. It would still be the same way it was with or without humans existing. Now, when we're talking about laws of logic, constructs, they are things in our brains and written on paper. Okay, just like a song on a CD.
Yeah, so you said the laws of logic. So if humans did not exist, the laws of logic would still exist.
They would still be true.
They would still be true. So
but there'd be no laws to be written down.
So in a sense, the laws of logic are transcendental.
No, it's like saying a map of a globe is transcendental. If you've created a globe that describes the Earth and the continents and the oceans, now if humans never existed to create that globe, yes, it would still be describing what the Earth really looks like.
So if humans never existed, there would be no laws of gravity?
Yes, there would be no laws of anything. Well, if wait, because I'm a Star Trek fan, so if other aliens thought these things up, they might have the laws, we might not. So if humans didn't exist, there would be no human-created laws.
There'll be new human-created laws. So when you say human-created laws, you're talking about the laws of logic and the laws of gravity, and all of that, right?
You want to go into laws of gravity?
No, I'm just saying, if humans never existed, what you're saying, there is no law of gravity. There would be no law of gravity.
There would be no law of gravity, but what the law of gravity describes would still be true.
Would still be true. It's just like the laws of logic.
Correct. The laws are human-created.
So in that sense, like the laws of logic are transcendental.
No.
Like the words laws of logic and like the law of non-contradiction and all that, those words are not transcendental, but I'm saying the laws themselves, though, are.
I'm saying, one, the word transcendental is a pointless term. Two, the laws of logic actually exist in matter, which is in our brains or on paper, or in a computer, or in any way that can store that information.
That's not what I'm asking.
It exists in a storage medium.
That's not what I'm asking you. Like, I'm asking you, like you just said, like the laws of gravity if humans never existed, there would be no law, but the law describing gravity would still exist, right?
Of course.
Okay, so you also said that if humans never existed, the laws wouldn't exist, but logic would still exist. So in that
Is
sense,
I'm
what?
sorry. Is gravity contingent on a description?
I'm not okay. No, I agree. Okay, first off, I'm saying gravity. I'm not saying gravity is contingent on what if humans exist or not. I'm
No,
asking you
I'm saying is it contingent on a description of gravity?
on a description. No, gravity exists even if we just if there was no description of it, gravity would still.
Yes.
If I dropped a ball out of a window, it'd still fall no matter what.
The same thing with the laws of logic. They are describing things that are true regardless of our
Okay,
existence.
that's what I'm asking. Okay,
They are truth statements. They have to be true.
okay.
Even though earlier in our discussion we disagreed on if dichotomies are really two options or not.
That's exactly what I was trying to get you to say. Now, in that sense, the laws of logic are transcendental, right?
What is these are woo words. What do you mean by transcendental?
Transcendental, as in outside of human experience, as in outside of
Reality?
no, outside of human experience.
I say the laws of logic are stored in a medium.
What do you mean by that?
A medium, your brain, a disk, a computer, book.
Stored in our brains, the laws of logic. But you just said if humans never existed, they
We
would still exist.
No, I said they would still describe something that is true. The same thing with gravity. If humans never describe gravity, it would still exist and they would still react the same way.
So what the laws of logic are describing is still true, right? If humans never existed, okay, so what the laws of logic are describing are transcendental.
Yeah, the laws of logic are not transcendental.
Okay, so if they're transcendental, objective, and universal, that means they cannot.
You just said they were not transcendental. You said they were describing something
transcendental. Yeah, I asked you before that, are they objective? You said yes, and I asked you, are they universal? And you said yes. So therefore, if they're transcendental, universal, objective, and they cannot change,
I might have misspoken. They are describing something that would be universal.
They are describing something that can be universal.
Correct. Meaning, if some super alien came and vaporized himself and all life in the universe, the Earth would still be the Earth and not the Earth.
That's okay.
Law to describe it.
But they are describing something that is universal. So let me ask you, according to your worldview, how do you justify something that is universal, transcendental, objective, and cannot change?
Why would I have to justify that?
Because okay, I'm asking you a question.
You're telling me what it is.
You're asking me a question. No. How do you know it though? How do you know it though? That's what I'm asking.
You're not
your worldview cannot account for the laws of logic.
You're giving me a description of something, you're not giving an argument. You are describing something. There's nothing to justify.
No, but that's what I'm saying, that's the difference. My worldview can account for the laws of logic, whereas your worldview cannot account for the laws of logic.
I think I just did, and I don't think you have. I don't think God discusses the laws.
Explain to me how you
can you show me the page in the Bible where they explain the laws of logic?
We're made in God's image. The beginning of knowledge. The beginning of knowledge is the fear of the Lord.
Are the laws of logic explicitly listed anywhere in the Bible?
Not explicitly, but neither is the Trinity.
But you're claiming this is the ultimate source of something it doesn't even describe.
Okay. It doesn't explicitly say it. It implies it. That's what I'm saying. Just like the Bible does not explicitly talk about the Trinity. Does not explicitly say the word Trinity. Yeah, but it implies the Trinity. But as I was saying, though, I mean, how does your worldview account for the laws of logic that are universal, transcendental, objective, and cannot change?
You keep changing what I said, and you already agreed to what I said before.
That is exactly what you said.
I said they were describing something universal.
Yes, okay, and that's what I'm saying.
They are not themselves universal. You keep changing that.
Okay, no. You said that they're describing something that is universal, objective, transcendental, and cannot change. That is exactly what you said.
What they're describing.
So how does your worldview account for that?
For what?
For the laws of logic.
The laws of logic don't do that thing. They're describing that. You get the difference? Okay. The laws of gravity don't. It's like the laws. I
don't think you're understanding my question.
I absolutely understand your question.
You're saying that the laws of logic are describing something that is universal, transcendental, objective, and cannot change. And
but they are not those things. They are not those things.
What I'm asking you is, how do you account for that?
For what? They are not those things.
How do you account for what they're describing?
How do I account for the universe in existence?
No. How do you? Oh my gosh. How do you account for what the laws of logic are describing? Like, how do you account for what the law of non-contradiction is described?
It's describing reality.
Okay, I'm asking you, how do you account for it though? How do you justify it?
How do I account for reality?
How do you justify the laws of logic? How do you account for the laws of logic?
Oh, how do they come to be?
How do you account for them?
They are not.
How do you know them? How do you know them? How do you know them to be true?
This is a mathematical thing, but they are by definition true.
And what do you mean by that? How do you know them to be true? That's why,
exactly. Because, see, logic is one of those weird things where we can actually get absolute truth, like in mathematics. A equals A. Absolutely true. Why? Because of the way we've described A, the way we described the meaning of equals, and the way we described the second A. That's why it is absolutely true. Because we've defined it as being true.
Okay, so you would say that what is true, no matter what.
Yeah, what is true.
Okay, so so what you're saying is that there can be people who are wrong, that there's people that are false, that say things that are not true.
Yes.
Okay, so what's your foundation for truth? Actually, what's your foundation for knowledge and truth?
Evidence and reason.
Evidence. Okay, now we're back to this again.
See, you are confusing two things. Do you know the difference between knowledge and a knowledge claim?
Okay, knowledge is a justified truth claim.
What is the difference between a knowledge claim and knowledge?
Knowledge is justified truth.
Justified true belief, like Sai likes to say?
Yeah.
All right, so if we're talking about how I'm justifying knowledge, how can I justify something of knowledge without making a claim?
Like, I'm not understanding your question.
Meaning, whenever I'm discussing knowledge, I'm discussing knowledge claims. If it's just knowledge, it's in my head. Until I make a claim, until I talk about it, until there's something to discuss, it's pointless.
Okay.
There's nothing to evaluate, and it is either knowledge or it is not knowledge.
What I'm asking you is, what's your ultimate authority? What's your foundation for knowledge, though? How do you know things?
You're begging the question. You're assuming there's an ultimate authority.
Okay, everybody has a script. That's what I'm saying. Everybody has an ultimate authority.
No, everyone does not have an ultimate authority.
Oh my gosh.
I don't believe in God. I don't have an ultimate authority. I don't have God as an ultimate authority.
And I would say okay, no, I'm not saying, okay, you don't have my God as your ultimate authority, but what I'm saying is You have your own divinized logic as your authority. You presuppose your own logic.
I presuppose my own logic.
Yes. You justify your reasoning by your own reasoning.
I do believe my own logic, correct.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You come at this with your own presuppositions. That's what I'm saying. Like I come
Sure.
at this with my own presuppositions based on the Bible. You come at your presuppositions based on your own logic. And the way,
But you
like,
don't
yeah,
justify yours, and I justify mine.
we both justify ours by the script that we go off of. My script is the Bible. Your script is your logic.
So why is Islam wrong?
What?
Why is Islam wrong?
Say that again.
Why is Islam
Why
wrong?
is Islam? Okay. Now you're asking me. According to Christian theism, Islam is wrong because it contradicts God's word. And
why
if
is it
you
wrong?
like again like this is a debate between the Christian worldview and the atheist worldview. But now if you're positing Islam, so now does that mean you're conceding atheism and now you're Islamic?
Did I just say I believe in Islam?
Well, I'm just saying you're going off topic. This is a debate between a Christian worldview and an atheistic worldview, and now you're going on a rabbit trail.
I understand that's a script you guys use, but I never claimed to believe in Islam, so it makes no sense.
No, it's not.
to say
It's not a script. That's exactly what you're doing. Like, this is a debate between two worldviews.
What your
Like, I'd be
argument
happy-
is Islam is
Islam is not
you're-
true because, according to Christian theism, Islam's not true because it contradicts God's word.
your argument is Islam is not true because Christianity is true. Christianity is true because Christianity is true. It's a circular argument. It's
Everything-
logically
okay.
invalid. No,
First
everything
off,
is not circular
Everything is
in that
circular.
way.
Everything is
No.
circular. You say that your worldview is true because you reason that it's true, and you justify your reasoning by your own reasoning. That's circular.
No, I justify my reasoning with evidence.
I say Christianity is true because God reveals truth to us.
I said I justified my reasoning with evidence. You changed it to reasoning.
No, you justify. Yeah, you said evidence, but I asked you if we both looked at the same evidence and we came to different conclusions based on our worldview. How do you know that your conclusion is true? And you said that you know because you reason it's true. So you're reasoning that your reasoning is true.
No, that's not what I said. That's what the presuppositionalist argument is. I said I base my reasoning on evidence. That's not a circular argument. You claim
Okay,
God is
but
real because
we could
God is
both-
real. That is a circular
We
argument.
could both look at the same evidence and come to different conclusions based on our worldviews, our two different worldviews. Then I asked you, how do you know that what you're looking at and your conclusion is more true than mine? And that's because of you reason that your reasoning is valid.
It's because mine is based on evidence and it's falsifiable, meaning if I was wrong, I could find out. Yours is based on a circular argument. You're going to believe what you believe no matter what.
Evidence. We both look at the same evidence.
What evidence would it take for you to believe God doesn't exist?
What evidence would it take for me to believe that God doesn't exist? God coming down and telling me that he does not exist.
Okay, so do you not see the problem with that? You have a dishonest position. You honestly are not interested if God does or does not exist. You're just going to assume God exists.
You're same thing about you. You're not interested in God, whether or not God exists either. You just assume he does not exist.
If God came down and told me he exists, I would believe him.
But what I'm telling you, that the best evidence for God's existence is that without him we cannot know anything. But you have not justified how you know anything at all. You just say that you do know things. You never justified how you do know anything. You just said that you do know things.
No, I didn't. I said evidence and reason. But you don't like my answer. Now you are talking about.
We both look at the same evidence and come to different conclusions. So you reason that your conclusion is more true because you reason that your reasoning is valid.
All right, let's get to the heart of this. What is a vicious and virtuous circle?
What?
Vicious and virtuous circles, what are they?
A vicious circle is something that just goes around in a circle. Like, well, I mean, I'm not
They
familiar with
both
those
go around
terms,
in
to
a
be
circle.
honest.
You don't know what those terms are?
Yeah.
The presuppositional
What?
argument admits it's a circular argument. You do understand that, right?
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
I know what a
You don't
circular
know
argument.
And now they've used this word.
What?
They've heard of this word.
A viciously circular argument is something that goes in a circle with no justification.
Where's that definition coming from?
What?
If you Google
Say
these
that again?
terms, do you know what you're going to get?
What?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
If you
you.
Google these terms, okay, sorry. If you Google these terms, do you know what you're going to get?
What?
You're going to get economic terms. These are terms
Yeah.
that are used in economics. These are not
Yes, I
terms
know.
that are regularly used in philosophy.
Yes, I know. And those terms, that's why I'm saying I don't generally use those terms. Dr. Greg Bonson does not use those terms either. Cornelius Van Til does not use those terms. Psi 10 is the only presuppositionalist that I have ever heard use those terms before. Like, I generally, I stray away.
Dustin Seegers?
I don't
Eric
pay
Hovind?
attention to him. I don't know who Dustin Seegers is. The only presuppositionalist I really listen to is Dr. Greg Bonson.
So you don't
And he does not use those terms.
So you don't believe your argument's circular?
What?
You don't believe it's a circular argument?
I never said that it was. I said all arguments are circular.
Well, mine wasn't
The
circular.
only difference is... No, you have not. I showed how your argument is circular because you reason that your reasoning is valid.
No, you redefined my argument to make it circular. You redefined my argument to make it sound circular.
Redefine it.
Okay.
You said that... You said that... You said... What?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you saying?
State what I said about my reasoning. How do I reason?
I asked you, how do you trust your reasoning? You said by evidence, and yeah, you said by evidence and reason. So I asked you, okay, so if we both looked at the same evidence, and based on our two different worldviews, we came to two different conclusions. How do you trust your interpretation of the evidence as more valid than mine? And the only way you can do that is if you reason that your reasoning is more valid than my reasoning. So that's a circular argument.
It's not. I'm not claiming omniscience. You are claiming omniscience. You're claiming to know.
I'm not claiming omniscience. I've never claimed that at all.
You're claiming to know things for certain. And then
okay, but I'm not saying I know
the only thing I claim to know for certain is my existence, and that's just an obvious thing. Now, some Christian apologists want to argue with me about that, which, whatever, it's a pointless thing, but...
Like, and actually, to answer your question, viciously circular means begging the question.
Viciously circular means... No, a circular argument is begging the question.
Well, but every argument is circular.
Is a virtuously circular argument valid?
I don't use, like I said, I don't use those terms. Like, Psi 10 is the only presuppositionalist that I've ever heard use that term before.
I'm just asking, do you think virtuously circular arguments are valid?
Like, Cornelius Van Til, the person who founded the presuppositional argument, he does not use those terms at all. Psi 10 made up those terms.
Okay, so you're not claiming your argument's circular?
No, I never said that. I said all arguments are circular.
Okay, mine wasn't circular. I based my reasoning on evidence.
I showed you how it was.
No, you changed
reason
it.
that your reasoning is valid.
No, I use evidence to justify my reasoning. Now,
okay,
how do you justify God?
We both look at the same. We both look at the same evidence. We both do.
I justify my reasoning with evidence. How do you justify God?
But we both look at the same evidence. We both look at the same evidence, come up with two different conclusions. You say you're more right than I am because you reason that your reasoning is valid.
No, I use evidence to justify my reasoning.
We both use evidence to justify our reasoning.
Okay, so how do you justify God?
What? Based
How
on God's word.
do you justify God with evidence?
Based on God's word.
Do you justify God's existence with evidence?
Yeah, through general and special revelation.
All right, what's your evidence God exists? Thank you.
Well, I just told you the best evidence for God's existence is the fact that without him we can't know anything at all.
How do you know that?
Because that's what God reveals. We only know things
Okay,
that God reveals. We only know things that God reveals to us with certainty.
so you know he exists because he said he exists?
What? Yeah, he did. We
Okay,
know he
what
exists
is
because
God's
he said he
revelation?
exists. We know he
Are you talking
exists
about
because he said he exists.
in the
What?
Bible? In the Bible?
General revelation and special revelation.
All right, okay, the Bible, how did that come to be?
Hello?
Through special revelation?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, shit.